Imagine walking up to the grocery checkout tomorrow. You swipe your card, declined. You try again, declined. You call the bank thinking it is a glitch. It is not. Your account was closed because the interest rate was too low to keep you as a customer. Listen, we all saw the headlines, a federal cap on credit card interest rates, 10%. On paper, that sounds like the ultimate victory for the little guy. We've been getting crushed by 25, 28, even 30% APRs for years. It feels like the system is finally throwing us a bone. But here is the street smart reality check. When the government forces a price drop, the supplier doesn't just say, okay, I guess I'll make less money. Number, they stop selling the product. Think about it like this. Imagine a high-end nightclub. Usually the cover charge is $100. It is expensive, but if you pay, you get in. Now, imagine the city passes a law saying the cover charge can only be $10. Does the club let everyone in for $10? Hell no. The bouncer just changes the rules. Suddenly, you need a tuxedo to get in. You need to know the owner. They stop looking at your cash and start looking at your pedigree. That is exactly what is about to happen to your credit line. The banks are the nightclub. The interest rate is the cover charge. If they can't charge you for the risk they're taking, they simply won't let you in the door. This isn't a conspiracy. It is basic math. And that math suggests that for millions of Americans, the gift of 10% interest is actually a Trojan horse that's going to wipe out their purchasing power right before 2026. While everyone else is celebrating the lower rates, we need to look at the trapdoor opening underneath their feet. Because if you don't fit the new, stricter dress code, you are getting kicked to the curb. Let's get under the hood of the machine. We need to think like the enemy for a second to beat them. Why does a bank hand you a credit card? It's not because they like your face or want to help you buy groceries. It's because you are a revenue stream. They lend you digital numbers, you pay back real cash with interest. Simple. But here's the trap most folks miss. That business costs them money to run. They have to pay to borrow that cash themselves, pay for the servers, the branches, and the biggest cost of all, covering the losses from the people who take the money and run. Here is the napkin math that scares me, and it should make you sit up straight. Say inflation is chewing up 3 or 4% of the dollar's value. The bank's cost to borrow funds, what they pay depositors or the Fed, is another 4 or 5%. Right there. The bank is already paying 9% just to keep the lights on. Now, imagine the government steps in and caps the interest they can charge you at 10%. Do the math, 10 minus 9 leaves them with a 1% profit margin, 1 single percent. And that is before accounting for anyone defaulting. Think about the leverage there. If they lend money to 100 people, they make a tiny sliver of profit on each. But if just one out of those 100 people defaults, that single loss wipes out the profit from the other 99 honest folks combined. It's like picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. The math is broken. So what is the logical move for the bank? They have to fire the risky customers immediately to stop the bleeding. It's the all-you-can-eat buffet analogy. If the rules say the buffet can only charge $5 for dinner, the owner isn't going to keep serving prime rib. He's swapping it for tap water and stale crackers. And if you look like a guy who eats hearty, maybe you carry a high balance or your score is just okay. The bouncer isn't just cutting you off. He's locking the door before you even park your car. This is the invisible eviction. Banks are currently running silent algorithms to tag anyone who is unprofitable at a 10% APR cap. Take a guy with a 680 credit score. Last year, at 25% interest, he was a cash cow. Today, at 10%, he's a mathematical liability. The computer doesn't care about his loyalty. It calculates the risk, sees a negative number, and hits delete. You wake up, check your app, and your limit is slashed to 0. Suddenly your utilization spikes, your score tanks, and other banks panic and cut you too. It's a domino effect. Pause for a second. Have you ever had a credit limit cut for no reason? Let me know in the comments. I want to see how many of us are already on their list. But listen, they aren't evil. They are robots following code, and code can be hacked. We need to make sure your profile screams safe bet, so the robot keeps you in the VIP section while it hits the eject button on millions of others. We got this. So who exactly gets thrown off the boat when these new rules hit? This is where it gets personal, and frankly, this is where most people are going to get blindsided. In the old system, the messy one we're living in right now, you could still get a seat at the table with a 600 credit score, sure. The banks were charging you a painful 28% interest, effectively bleeding you dry, but you had the liquidity. You had the plastic in your wallet. If your transmission blew on the freeway or your kid needed emergency dental work, you had a way to pay for it. You had a buffer. Under the new 10% regime, that buffer evaporates. Analysts are predicting what they call a credit score apartheid. And here is the cold, hard math on why they're right. Banks aren't charities, they are casinos where the house always wins. When they can charge 30% APR, they can afford to take a gamble on you. If you default, the high fees from everyone else cover the loss. But if the government caps their potential profit at 10%, the math changes instantly. There is no margin for error anymore. To keep the lights on, they can only lend to people with a near zero chance of defaulting. That means the prime borrowers, the super prime borrowers. We are talking about the guys with the 760, maybe even 780 credit scores. If you are sitting at a 680 or a 700 scores that used to be considered good enough, you are suddenly in the danger zone. Let me paint the picture of exactly how this trap springs, because I don't want you caught in it. Imagine you have a credit card with a $10,000 limit. You're carrying a $4,000 balance. In the old world, your utilization is 40%, not great, but manageable. But then the bank's algorithm updates to the new 10% safety standard. It decides you're too risky for a $10,000 exposure. Overnight, they slash your credit limit to $4,100. They haven't closed your account, but look at what just happened. Your balance is still $4,000, but your limit is now $4,100. Your utilization just spiked from 40 to 97%. Boom, your credit score crashes by 50 or 80 points instantly because you look maxed out. Now, other banks see the score drop and panic, slashing your limits on their cards. It's a death spiral that locks you out of the financial system entirely, all because they changed the rules in the back office while you were sleeping. Think of it like a VIP nightclub. Before, the bouncer let everyone in because the cover charge was $50. If you had the cash, you got in. Now the government says the cover charge must be free. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Because now that they can't make money at the door, the club goes exclusive. They put up the velvet rope. They only let in the models and the billionaires who are going to buy the expensive champagne bottles. If you're just a regular guy looking for a beer, you're left on the sidewalk. This is a lifeboat drill on a cruise ship where the captain just announced there are only enough seats for first class. Everyone in economy is being told to swim. If you rely on your credit card to smooth out your monthly cash flow, which, let's be honest, is most of us, this is a direct attack on your lifestyle. The rich, who don't actually need the credit, will get access to incredibly cheap 10% loans to buy more assets. The working class, who actually need the float to survive the month, will get nothing. It's a reverse Robin Hood scenario, taking access from the poor to give cheap rates to the rich. And the worst part, it's being sold to us as consumer protection. They tell you they're saving you from high interest rates by making sure you can't borrow money at all. Don't buy the hype. Watch the hands, not the mouth, but here is the flip side. Now that we know the velvet rope is going up, we can make sure we're on the right side of it before 2026. We're not going to let an algorithm decide our fate. We got this. Let's zoom out for a second, because this hits your wallet in a second way. When millions of people suddenly lose their credit cards, what happens to the economy? Spending crashes. Think about the guy who buys a new laptop for his freelance business. He puts it on credit. Think about the family booking a summer vacation credit. If that credit evaporates overnight because of the great freeze, those sales don't happen. Best Buy doesn't sell the laptop. The airline doesn't sell the ticket. When sales drop, companies cut costs. And what is the biggest cost? Labor. The unintended consequence of helping the poor with 10% rates could be a recession that costs them their jobs. It's a classic economic death spiral. The banks pull back, spending drops, businesses fire people, and then the banks pull back even more because now people are unemployed. We are looking at a potential liquidity crisis in 2026, where cash is king because credit is extinct. This is why we preach cash flow over everything on this channel. You cannot rely on the system to float you when things get tight, because the system is preparing to board up the windows. This isn't doom mongering. It's weather forecasting. If you see a hurricane coming, you don't scream at the sky, you board up your house. The 10% cap is the hurricane. The credit freeze is the flood. And we need to be the ones sitting on high ground, watching the water rise, safe and dry. All right? Enough diagnosis. Let's talk about the cure. How do we survive the great credit freeze of 2026? We have to act before the law passes. Once the legislation is signed, the banks will lock the doors. You have a narrow window of opportunity right now. Move number 1, the preemptive strike. Request a credit limit increase today. Log into your app right now. If you have a $5,000 limit, ask for $10,000. Why? Because when the banks start cutting limits, they usually cut by a percentage or down to a baseline. If you start higher, you land higher. You want to expand your buffer while the algorithms are still operating on the old rules. Move number 2, the 30% rule. You need to get your utilization ratio down immediately. If you are using 80% of your limit, you look risky. The moment the 10% cap talk gets serious, the banks will flag high utilization accounts for closure first. Sell the junk in your garage, pick up a side gig, do whatever you have to do to pay that balance down to 30%. You want to look like the guy who doesn't need the money. Banks only lend to people who don't need it. Move number 3, diversify the supply. If you have all your cards with one major bank, open a card with a local credit union. Credit unions are nonprofits. They operate differently than the big Wall Street banks. They might be less likely to purge you when the profit margins squeeze. Don't keep all your eggs in one ruthless basket. Get a backup generator for your credit life. Here is the bottom line. The system is full of good intentions that pave the road to hell. A 10% cap sounds like a dream, but for the unprepared, it's a trap. It's a mechanism to strip the working class of their financial leverage. But that's not us. Not anymore. We see the second order effects. We see the nightclub bouncer tightening the velvet rope. While the masses cheer for cheap money, we are quietly fortifying our positions. We are raising our limits, lowering our risk profile, and diversifying our alliances. By the time 2026 rolls around and the credit freeze hits the news, you won't be the one frantically calling the bank because your card got declined at the grocery store. You'll be the one watching from the sidelines, secure in your liquidity, ready to scoop up opportunities while cash is scarce. This is how we win. We don't fight the wave, we surf it. The rules are changing. But for a street smart operator like you, chaos is just a ladder. You've got the blueprint, you've got the logic. Now go make sure your name is on the VIP list before they change the locks. Disclaimer again, I'm just a guy on the internet reading the tea leaves, not a financial advisor. Do your own research, protect your neck, and let's make 2026 our best year yet. The window is closing. If you want the 2026 survival blueprint before the banks patch the glitch, smash that subscribe button right now.